Nestled in Atlanta's upscale Buckhead neighborhood stands the iconic Swan House, a Jazz-Age mansion that has witnessed nearly a century of history. Built in 1928 as a showpiece of Southern elegance, Swan House was home to Edward and Emily Inman, a power couple whose fortunes and taste helped shape Atlanta. Hi everyone, Ken here. Hit that subscribe button and let's explore this house. In 1881, Edward Emily was born into one of Atlanta's most prominent post-Civil War families. His grandfather, Shadrach Inman, had moved to Atlanta from Tennessee after the Civil War, and his father, Hugh, amassed a cotton brokerage fortune in the late 19th century. By the 1870s, Hugh Inman's ventures in cotton trading, along with investments in railroads, real estate, dry goods, and banking, made him one of Atlanta's wealthiest and most influential figures. Young Edward grew up in privilege, but also with an entrepreneurial spirit of his own. He attended Princeton University and returned to Atlanta to marry his college sweetheart, Emily McDougall. With the financial springboard of his family's wealth, he expanded into new enterprises and leadership roles. By the 1910s, Edward was a partner or executive in several major companies. He served as president of the Kimball House Company, which operated one of Atlanta's grand hotels, and vice president of the Atlanta Woolen Mills and Davis & Paxson Stokes, a prominent department store later affiliated with R.H. Macy & Company. He also sat on the boards of leading banks like the Trust Company of Georgia and First National Bank of Atlanta, as well as utilities such as the Atlantic Ice and Coal Company. In short, by the roaring 1920s, Edward Inman had established himself as a wealthy businessman and society figure embodying the prosperity and optimism of Atlanta's Jazz Age. When it came to designing their dream home, the Inmans spared no expense in seeking top talent. In 1924, they commissioned the prestigious Atlanta firm, Henstreet and Adler, to draw up plans for the estate. The lead designer would be Philip Schutz, a young but remarkably gifted architect who had trained at Columbia and the American Academy in Rome. Schutz was a master of classical architecture, known for his meticulous attention to detail and proportions. For the Inmans project, which Schutz considered one of his finest residential works, he chose to blend Italian Renaissance and English Palladian elements into a harmonious design suited for 20th century living. Swan House's most prominent feature, perhaps, is its western garden facade, a breathtaking composition at the top of a hill, where twin curving staircases embrace a cascading water feature that tumbles down towards the terraced lawns. This dramatic, Baroque-style cascade was inspired by Rome's Villa Corsini and creates a forced perspective, making the ascent to the house feel longer and more grandiose. The east side of the house presents a contrasting entrance facade. Here, Schutz channeled English Palladian symmetry with a monumental four-column portico in the Doric order supporting a classical pediment. This side, often considered the front, evokes an 18th century English country house with its stately columns and temple-like entrance. Inside, Swan House was conceived as a showcase for both architectural detail and the Inman's collections. The layout included formal entertaining rooms, a columned entrance hall, a sunlit morning room, a regal library, a dining room, as well as 4 main bedrooms, guest quarters, and even an apartment hidden in the attic. Schutz lavished the interior with Palladian touches. There were delicately carved wood moldings, classical cornices, and plaster ornaments in high relief designed to cast dramatic shadows across the rooms. To decorate these rooms, Emily Inman partnered with Ruby Ross Wood, a renowned New York interior designer and Georgia native who virtually invented American interior design as a profession. Ruby Ross Wood's philosophy was to mix the best of the past and present, eclectic antique pieces with comfortable modern ones, all united by bold color and impeccable taste. In Swan House, Wood worked closely with Emily and Schutz to select furnishings and finishes that complemented the classical architecture. For instance, the morning room was painted a vivid spring green and accented with lively patterned chintz fabrics, Ruby Wood's signature fearless use of color. In 1931, just 3 years after settling into Swan House, Edward passed away suddenly at the age of 49. His death came as a shock. Accounts describe it as unexpected, possibly due to a heart attack. The timing was cruelly ironic. The man who had risen with Atlanta's prosperity in the 1910s and 1920s passed away in the early years of the Depression, leaving behind a magnificent new home and a family in grief. After Edward's passing, Emily opened the mansion to her extended family to keep it filled with life. She invited her adult son Hugh and his wife Mildred to move in, and soon the halls echoed with the laughter of her young grandchildren. Throughout the mid-20th century, Emily Inman kept Swan House impeccably intact. Even as modern development encroached on Buckhead and her grandchildren grew up and moved out, she protected the estate and its contents with a near museum level of care. One can imagine that by preserving everything so well, she foresaw that Swan House might one day be appreciated by more than just her family. She lived in Swan House until her passing in 1965 at the age of 84. Swan House could easily have gone the way of many Gilded Age mansions, sold to a developer and demolished. Fortunately, Emily had plans for the home's preservation. In 1966, her family sold Swan House along with most of its original furnishings to the Atlanta Historical Society. This was a significant gesture. It ensured that the mansion would be preserved as a museum rather than dispersed or drastically altered. The very next year, in 1967, Swan House opened its doors to the public as a house museum and the headquarters of the Atlanta Historical Society. Visitors could now wander the same halls that Edward and Emily once did, admiring the 18th century antiques, oil portraits, and fine china exactly where Mrs. Inman left them. It was as if time stood still in the rooms of Swan House, a rare document of luxurious living from the 1920s, preserved for posterity. By the 1970s, Swan House's fame extended beyond Atlanta. Its photogenic beauty and intact interiors caught the attention of national media. In fact, Architectural Digest featured Swan House in a lavish photo spread in the mid-1970s, showcasing its harmonious rooms and gardens to an international audience. The magazine praised the mansion's seamless blend of Philip Schutt's architecture and Ruby Ross Wood's interiors, noting how unusual it was for a historic home to retain so much of its original character. This exposure introduced Swan House to design enthusiasts around the world, firmly establishing it as an icon of classical American residential design. Even Architectural Digest editors marveled at how the mansion had been lovingly preserved as a time capsule of Jazz Age style, thanks largely to Emily Inman's foresight and the History Center's stewardship. In the 21st century, Swan House found an entirely new audience through pop culture. It achieved a bit of Hollywood stardom when it was used as a filming location for the Hunger Games series. In 2012 and 2013, Lionsgate Studios selected Swan House to portray the opulent presidential palace of President Snow in Catching Fire and Mockingjay, the blockbuster films based on Suzanne Collins' novels. The production team was reportedly drawn to Swan House because they wanted something that looked like it had been there forever, and the mansion's classical elegance fit the bill perfectly. For filming, the crew temporarily transformed some interior rooms, with reversible changes, and built elaborate set pieces on the front lawn. After the movies, fan interest spiked, and the History Center offered special tours highlighting the rooms used on screen. Through all these evolutions, the house itself remains remarkably unchanged. A restoration in the 1990s refreshed the paint and textiles to their original color schemes, ensuring that today's visitors see essentially what the Inmans saw in 1928. Walking through Swan House now, one can admire Emily Inman's actual furniture, from Chippendale chairs to Chinese porcelain vases, arranged just as Ruby Ross Wood placed them. Standing on the lawn today, one might hear the distant hum of Atlanta's traffic beyond the trees, but with Swan House's grounds, the past feels palpably present. It's easy to picture a dapper Edward Inman stepping into his 1920s roadster under the porte-cochere, or Emily Inman descending the stairs in a Flapper-era gown en route to a charity gala. The Swan House enchants us not by overwhelming, but by inviting us to bask in a bygone era of elegance and innovation, a place where history, design, and Atlanta's soul converge. And with that, I'll turn it over to you. What did you think about Swan House? Let me know down below in the comments section. My goal for this year is to reach 1 million subscribers, so if you are among the 1 to 2 million monthly viewers of this channel who are not subscribed, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button and let's reach this goal together. As always, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time on This House.